So our two next speakers really exemplify what happens when talent meets hard work, resilience, and purpose. Their stories and insights speak for themselves. Together they played in, covered, and shaped some of the most iconic moments in sports history. Steve Young needs no introduction, but I thought it's worthwhile giving him one anyway. He's an NFL Hall of Famer, a college football Hall of Famer. He's the MVP of the Super Bowl. He's a unanimous first-team All-American. He's a National Football Foundation scholar athlete. He's a quarterback who redefined what it means to lead under pressure. He often was evading blitzes, and he broke records and won championships. But it's off the field that I've been really impressed with what Steve's done. So over the last few decades, his Forever Young Foundation has spent time helping improving the lives of children facing adversity, creating opportunities through education, technology, and wellness. And in the business world, he's done some great things off the field. He co-founded a private equity firm that's been very, very prolific called HGGC, and he's built this legacy of leadership, and he's carried on what he learned on the field, off the field. So Steve's going to be with us in a moment. With Steve today is Ted Robinson. So what you need to know about Ted is he's a proud graduate of Notre Dame and one of the most respected voices in sports broadcasting. His career spans decades. Some of the world's most prestigious events he's been participating in, from the NFL to the Olympics to tennis Grand Slam to college football's biggest rivalries. He's brought insight, humor, and humanity to every call. If it's a game that mattered, chances are Ted was behind the mic, not just for us to see the moment, but we could feel the moment. Together, Steve and Ted remind us that sports and storytelling aren't just connected, they're inseparable. Behind every great moment on the field is someone who lived it and someone who knew how to capture it for the rest of us to enjoy it. Please welcome two legends in their own right, Steve Young and Ted Robinson.
You want to be on the left side, right?
No, I'm a lefty too. Well, good morning, everybody. And I don't know how the heck to follow that introduction from Mark. That's gracious, other than to say, that's the talent. This is the hard work. Okay, I will accept that. But it's welcome to be back. This is personal for a lot of us, certainly for Diane and Mark Flynn it is, for myself it is, and listening to Brad talk, there were so many wonderful memories of the time I got to know Bill, which had nothing to do with business, but everything to do with life. So here's a perfect setup, Steve, because Brad just made a comment about what it was like as leadership, not, and I'm going to paraphrase Brad here, hopefully accurately, but it's not about developing greatness, it's creating the environment for greatness to succeed. So Bill was this great Silicon Valley coach. You were around a coach also named Bill that did the same thing.
Yeah, they're related. It's interesting. People always ask me, leadership. Teach me. How do we do it? And there's a fundamental principle at its root, is that you're curious about the healing and success of another person. And sports sometimes brings out the weapon in people. Look, I'm in charge, let me hit you with a big stick, do what I say, and, that'll work. And I think there's productivity in it. I think the last 100 years there's probably been a lot of productivity in it, but in the long run, there's not abundance in it. And the abundance I'm talking about is the ability to see the full measure of both people. And Bill Walsh, as well as Bill Campbell, both saw the relationship at its root as a partnership. And that partnership said that I am equally vulnerable as you in the relationship. There's not a power dynamic that I want you to know that in the end I can fire you. And even though that was true, that wasn't the truest truth. The truest truth was that my success is your success. And not only that, I seek and see and have the ability, and that's what makes them unique. They can see the other person and know their potential before they do. That is, when you're a coach that's going to be Hall of Fame, is because you have been given a gift from heaven that you can see the potential of the person before they ever do. And that was my case. Bill Walsh saw something in me that I dreamed about, thought, well, maybe. And he, but that was his talent. And then how he brought it out and how he taught it was always with a vulnerability that, with comedy, with a wicked sense of humor, with clarity. Sometimes I'd leave meetings with Bill Walsh, and I think to myself, I think that went pretty well, And then there'd be blood kind of dripping down my pants, and I'm like, wow, I thought that was better than it was, So like he had a way of, and of course that's a metaphor, yeah. But anyway, that's the thing that when you think about Bill, it was a dynamic, and it's rooted in a sense that we're in it together, and I felt that, and that is a powerful thing when you're the one in charge. It's a powerful place to be.
The comedy is not a word I think of hearing. We don't hear comedy and Bill Walsh in the same sentence very often.
Oh
yeah.
My gosh, he was a wicked funny guy, and he was wicked funny all the time. I'm sorry that if it was his public display wasn't that way, but and he could make fun of himself, which I appreciated as well. And we made fun of him a lot. My favorite thing to tell him was, well, those who can't coach, and
Yes.
he used to be mad. He'd be like, I was huge at San Mateo City College. You should have seen me play. I was the best.
Another great word, teamwork. And some of you, I'm not sure, some of you may have heard this story before, so I'll condense it. But Bill Campbell told a legendary story well after he finished coaching. I finally got him to say this publicly, and I want to hear you, Steve, you relate to it, of a meeting at Intuit. Big decision is coming. So Bill says, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all of the senior people we're going to meet, and everybody let their voices be heard, hash it out, and then Thursday morning I'll meet and announce the decision. So that happens. When Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's all hashed out. Thursday morning, Bill comes in, sits at the same table, and says, okay, here's what we're going to do. One of the senior heads raises his hand and said, Bill, I don't think you really considered, though, the fallout of what you're going to do. So Bill said, hey, John, would you step out in the hallway with me? And John went out in the hall with Bill, and Bill said, John, listen, I want to thank you very much for your service here. And we'll have somebody take care of you, and we'll clean out your desk and walk out. And the point being, you're on the team. And the quarterback just called the play in the huddle. The left guard can't say, hey, we can't run that play when the play clock is ticking down. That has to relate to some of your experiences, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, also it relates to doing hard things. Great relationships can have hard conversations, and painful conversations, where the truth, like you think I'm playing pretty well. I'm doing really good, and Bill would call you in and say, look, I know you think, and I know that the coverage at the San Francisco Chronicle seems to think that you're doing pretty well, but I want you to know that you are not reaching your potential, and you're bereft. He would use words like that. You're bereft in the ability to finish, or something like that. And you always leave going, is that good or bad? I can't. Am I bereft? Is that awesome or not really sure? But that's where the comedy would come in, because even in practice, something would happen, and he would have a funny comment about how, I wonder if Steve, like, I'm sure I'm making it up, but like, I wonder if Steve Young at night can actually get from his bed to the kitchen without tripping, I'm not really sure, and like he'd make some funny thing that made no sense other than to say you're a screw up, and everyone else knew it, but it wasn't, he didn't have to say it, you know what I mean? And I think there's clarity is kindness in him, and yeah, I think that's what you were going to, but you know, and then everyone plays a role, because everyone, you know, there's 50 guys with 50 independent contractors, right? Everyone makes their own deal with the team and very worried about their career. I mean, primarily worried about their career. But if everyone came together every day and was worried about their career, we wouldn't score many touchdowns, right? So there's this ability to subsume yourself to the whole, to the team, and kind of lose yourself. The best teams, the ones that win, are that magic ability to get you out of the mindset of, oh, how am I doing, to how are we doing? And that seems simple, but it takes talent and unique personalities to make it seem worthwhile. Because it's irrational to not be self-interested. You think about transaction, you make a deal. You ask me to do something, I'll do it, but what do I get, right? And that's the deal that you make with with your team and with the owner, and like, okay, I'll play and you pay me. Then how do you get out of that transaction? How do you lose it? How do you lose yourself and actually be authentic? Instead of remember the old days, right, a big stick. You better lose yourself or you're going to get over the head. Doesn't work long term. What really works is where you can build a sense of a spirit and build authentic kind of desire to be a part of the team. I used to hang super stupid, but it was like a bobblehead 49er helmet from my rearview mirror. And it was only because it was small, no one really noticed it, but it was, to me, it was like when I was going to work and I was in traffic and, on the 101, and you're like, this is, every day you got to go down, it's like, this is why. That's how they built that feeling that you're a Niner. And it's funny, I give that part to Eddie DeBartolo too, the owner, because he was the first owner in the history of football, in the history of sports, that looked at a player as a partner. Everyone who's an owner looked at, they were chattel, right? They're just people to just kind of bring them through. And because of that, built this sense that I could lose myself, join a group, fight for that thing, and really care about it more than myself. I'd lose it. I was like crazy, where I was a Niner. And now, 40 years later, no, not many, 25 years later, 20 years later, all of us, when we see each other, still feel that, right? None of us are saying, oh yeah, I got paid, and we had a good deal with Eddie DeBartolo, and like, no one thinks about that. What they think about is, how's everybody doing? That was awesome. We have your back. The Golden Heart Foundation, which is now going to go league-wide, was money that was collected to help struggling 49ers as they age. We did that. Players did that for each other. And that happened because the spirit we're talking about.
That's it. As you're saying that, Steve, that's incredibly powerful. And I know most of you are not from the Bay Area, but we have an institution here called the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame, which is self-explanatory. Every year, the induction is held in the spring up in San Francisco. And each of the last, 3-4 years that I've been around it, a 49er has been inducted. Eric Wright, old teammate of yours, defensive back this year. Point being, to Steve's comment, every year there are 10, 12, 14 former teammates of that inductee that come. None of the other organizations who have people inducted have that kind of representation. It's the 49ers.
It's the spirit of abundance.
Yeah.
It's nothing special. Everyone can have it, but you have to see why and what you're really about. So at its roots, you can start to grow sprouts that are about abundance and not about self-interest. And look, everyone has to be self-interested. It's the world we live in. It's entropy, right? I looked in the mirror this morning, quickly, right? Because is that my dad? Holy hell, what happened? I mean, what in the hell, what's going on, right? We're going the wrong direction, right? And so it's a place, This is the rational place is transaction. I'll do it, but what do I get? That's the life we live, right? That's how it works. But how can we elevate? How can we leave that space and become irrational? The 49ers for 20 years with Bill Walsh won because we were irrational, if that makes sense. And the irrationality is where the abundance and the magic is. And the rational, the entropic, the transaction is, right? You can't get out of it. Gravity's got me, time's got me, like, I can't get out of it. But can I elevate? And can I create a higher, holier work? And that's why people say, well, you won, what were the plays that were called? It doesn't matter. And Bill Walsh's book was titled, The Score Takes Care of Itself. That was the title of the book. But we don't care. Score takes care of itself. What really matters, and that's what he'd start every year with a speech, like, an environment like this, training camp. And he said, look, I don't care what play's called. I don't care what defense we run. We're going to win because we have a shared element of love for each other. And we were like, what? It's just football, bro. What the hell are you talking about? And he knew that shared common experiences amongst each other. He said, I know some of you could be on this team for 10 years. You'll know each other's names because it's on the frickin' back of their jersey. But you won't know anything about them. And you could be here for 10 years and that could be the case. I don't want that. I want you to know each other. And so in the buses, in the planes, in the locker room, in the hotels, I'm going to cross-fertilize you. You're going to room and eat and sit with people that you don't know on the team. For a little while, I'll force that conversation. But hopefully you guys will pick it up and really start to engage in a way of cross-fertilization, because there's going to be a time when we're at Lambeau Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin, we're down by 4 with a minute left, no timeouts, sleeting rain, you've never been more miserably cold in your life. And you're going to get in a huddle, and there's going to be a play that's called, but because of how you see each other, in that huddle is how we're going to get it done. That's how he did it. And we were like, weird, but okay, Uncomfortable. I mean, how many times did I come in the training room lunch after the first of 2 days, and you're like, it's the 16th day of training camp, and all the quarterbacks come in together because we finished practice together and hang together because kind of we're the smartest, and so we know that we should be together. And it's like a natural attraction, And we'd get to the lunch and sit down, and Bill would come in and be like, no. And so we're like, pick up your tray and go sit with somebody else. Simple, yet profound.
I'm listening to that, and I'm sitting there thinking, Steve has written a couple of books. You gave me one, and I just want you to know I went through it, The Law of Love, because you talked about zero sum. Football, zero sum. So how, I did not get, I would never put that on you. Yeah, no. But I can't help it. Zero sum meaning if Joe played, you didn't. If you played, Joe didn't. Right? You lived it. So how,
yeah.
All the things you just
couple things about that, Ted.
Posited
yeah, there was
beautifully,
it was awkward. It was always awkward between the two of us because of that, right? We never argued. We had a lot of fun together. We were in meetings thousands of hours together, and it was always, I guess what you'd call it, is profitable for the 49ers, I was the backup for most of it, and I used to think about backup quarterback as if it was like a death sentence. Like when people would say, oh, and here's Steve Young, backup, I was like cringe. I was like, oh, that is the worst. And that's just me. It doesn't mean it's bad for everyone. It was just for me, I had come to play, and I didn't want to stand. I hated it. And I'd complain about it, and I was kind of miserable. And because of that, that affected kind of everything. And I was complaining to a really dear friend of mine, one of my mentors, which I'm grateful, an angel in my life, and just saying how miserable I was. He said, Steve, you know, the truth is, if there's a job that you want that you don't have, then you better be the greatest in the history of man in the job that you do have. And it was like a lightning bolt of truth, and it changed me. And I said, you know what, I have to kind of throw up in my mouth on this, but I'm going to say to myself, you're going to be the greatest backup quarterback that ever was. And I started to say that, and then I started to try to think about what would that look like. What would it? How do you? What's the language of that? What's the behaviors? And the truth is that the preparation skyrocketed, the frustration also skyrocketed, but yet there was this, you know. And then I became very open and visible around helping Joe, where during the game, what's happening, you know. And not that I never was, but now I was super I was motivated. And what happened, and that's why this truth is so important, is that then I got the job that I wanted. And I was so more readily prepared for that job because of that. And otherwise, I would have spent years mired in victimization, digging a hole that I thought others were digging, jumping in the hole that I thought that I'd been pushed in, didn't realize that I jumped in myself, and then lived in victimization, and that is the worst place. And I can tell you by experience, it's the worst place to be, because you think you have been victimized and everything is not your fault, yet you're the one that authored the whole thing. And that was a tremendous learning lesson for me, and painful, but true. And so the two of us, you know, Bill was the one that threw us together on purpose. Remember Ted in those years when he was like, there were games where he'd call us in before the game and say, I remember we were in the New Orleans Saints game in New Orleans, and before the game he goes, hey, look, I'm going to play you both, and, you know, Steve, you be ready, you got those plays, and, you know, and so, you know, Joe would drive the team down to like the 5-yard line, and he goes, Steve, go and run that play, you know. So I go running in, and Joe's like, really? Like, I do all the work, and then this kid gets the glory, you know? And so, but that's how awkward it was. And I do need to tell you, one time when I went running in, it was a bootleg left, one of Bill's favorites, and supposed to bring the tight end in motion, and I forgot. And ran the play, and because the tight end didn't go, Ricky Jackson, the linebacker for the Saints, I turned to the bootleg, and he just hit me right in my chin. And luckily I didn't fumble. But then the play's over, and I go jogging off because that was my big chance, you know. And here comes Joe, and he looks at me like, nice job. Oh, Ted, there's some bad days, Ted.
But the way you handled that, Steve, the way you said that about convincing yourself to become the greatest backup quarterback that ever was, did you feel like you earned more respect from your teammates, especially then when you did become the guy and carved out your own Hall of Fame career?
Yeah, I think, of course, that's where the victimization is such a thief, right? Is that you don't realize how impactful it is in all directions. And then you also don't understand when you're actually making a sacrifice for something you think is worthwhile, the impact it has in all directions. It's like, I think it's unknown. But yet, over time, you realize, wow, it's a difference maker. It's a difference maker for how people perceive you. Because people who live in victimization, even subtly, you could sense it, you can feel it. You don't know that you even can call it what it is, but you know something's not right or something's off. And that, then people react to that. It's human. We're human, right? We're going to react to each other. That's what we do. And the impact of that is real in both directions, Ted. I think you're absolutely right on that.
I want to leave a little time for some questions here, but let me transition to transition, which you did, which I'm sure many of you have already done or are going to do. What was the moment? Because as you wrote so well in your book, you went from one zero-sum career to another zero-sum career in private equity. Was there a moment in that transition when you recognized, I'm going to make this, I'm going to do this?
Well, first, you have to, again, there's a rooted story there, too. My hero was Roger Staubach. I was a quarterback for the Cowboys. We became friends, which is really cool when you become friends with your hero. And so he famously transitioned from the NFL into forming the Staubach Company. It was probably still the most successful NFL player transition ever. Peyton Manning's going to threaten that, I think, or somebody else. Tom Brady. I mean, I don't know. I can't keep track of them. But I asked him any advice, and he said, "Run." I'm like, "Run? Run where?" He goes, "Just run away, because the game will never leave you, but you need to leave it." And because it's a death. It's a dream that's ending. And it's a dream that you've lived for a long time, and it's been amazing, and it had been. But it's now dead. And in many ways, you have to, when dreams die, they need to be mourned like a death. Because the next day you wake up, and you say to yourself, "Man, I was one of the best in the world." Well, what about today? What are you? I'm not even good at anything else. So, look, can I go back? And that's why you said to run, because you'll always want to go back to the thing that you were really good at. Can you be really good at anything else? You're not going to be great at two things, will you? But at least you can be good. Well, where are you now? And that's the transition that I made. It's insanity, but I went to law school while I was playing. 6 years from 1988 to 1994, went to 3 Super Bowls and missed a month of the semester and winter semester every year when we went to the Super Bowl, and just got abused by the teachers for it. I look back and I'm like, what? I can't even tell the story without laughing at myself. Like, what are you doing? But because I'd had that degree, I had an ability to transition and to start to run, and I really appreciated that. And I got to, there's a whole other career. I was able to cut the line a little bit, right? Because most of the people in private equity, I see Jay Hogue here and Mikey and my dear friends, and Jay's one of the greatest growth equity, private equity, venture capitalists in the history of man. And the traditional way to do it is you go to school, and then you go to consulting or banking, and then you get an MBA, and then you grind through under a desk for 10 years, and then you finally get, to breathe. And I was going to cut that line. And how are you going to do that authentically, And so that's been a chore in itself, and a vulnerability and a recognition that, you know what, I will never be, after 25 years in private equity, I will never be a great modeler. That financial engineering, I missed that train. But can I authentically still contribute? And that's what I've done, and I tried to find for 25 years, and then be around people that, I have great capabilities that maybe have a little bit more than some people, and then others have more capabilities than me, and let's lock arms, pari passu together, and off we go. And it's been a journey and a vulnerability. I still feel a little bit insecure. I'll be at a meeting. I'm sure I met with Jay before and felt like, well, I'm not really one of these guys. I haven't really earned it. I still feel that vulnerability, but yet, fake it till you make it. Fake it. I did that in football and quarterbacking. There were some years when I showed up in college, I didn't really know how to throw the football. I mean, what idiot never truly learned to throw when I was a kid, I spun it out of my hand like this, like you'd rationally do. Who knew that it was irrational how you throw a football, you go opposite. And I learned that in college, but I showed up in college to play quarterback without really knowing how to throw the football. What idiot does that? That's me.
Well, the person that does that was the person who went from recognizing that the owner you played for treated you like a partner, to X years later, you're sitting around, as you just did last year, trying to become a partner in the NFL.
What do you mean by?
Yeah, private equity investing.
Oh, yeah. So
Many people may not know that your firm was one of the firms that was interviewed to eventually do it.
Yeah, that's, that's.
Woody Johnson wants you as a partner.
Here's what I would say. Here's what I would say. If there was in a million years, every sports franchise will be owned by the players, right? Given enough time, the players are the ones on the field, and given enough time, they will figure out that we are the equity because we're on the field. Now, that's not where we are today because the players haven't figured that out, and it'll maybe take a million years. But until then, there are some amazing people that are the equity holders in franchises and sports, and it's a crazy world. 49ers were probably worth $400 million in 2000, and now they're worth, I don't know, did he just transact at 10 billion? I can't remember.
Closing in on it, yeah.
Yeah, and so as players play and this again subsume themselves with the coaches and go and do something irrational, there's people behind the scenes that are like, making $500 million in equity value every year, and that's a truth that's happening, and I don't think we should shy away from the facts. And the players have worked hard through the last 50 years to get more of that benefit, and now you're seeing Brock Purdy have a good year and now get paid $53 million. So it's happening. It's not equitable. There's still the third string tackle that blows his knee out and makes, he'll make money, but he won't, and then can't play very long. There's some inequity in it all, for sure. But it's still not $500 million of equity value a year, right? Players, you give players a chance. I get 5 players up here and literally have a lie detector test on them and like give them that truth serum where they can't lie, And you just said to them, "How do you feel?" They'll be a part of them and like, "We need guaranteed contracts." There's never, they're stealing from us. It's like when you're sitting in the locker room or you're in the bus somewhere. Players have a way of just, I think they're trying to shorten the million years because we always dreamed about being equity owners. That would be amazing, right?
So think about this as we wrap, and we'll take some questions here for Steve. All of you played college football in an era that really is gone now. What's every professional sports team, major league sports team in America or Canada, has one thing in common, right? There are multiple players on that team making more than the coach, right? Every professional team. That I asked 2 weeks ago, I was doing something like this with 2 university presidents, and I said, how long will that take before that happens in college football? That's exactly what they said. It's already happened. There's the change.
It's already happening, and they're all making more than this college school presidents too, by the way. Yeah. But that's the economics of live entertainment. AI's coming, and AI's only going to force human beings to look for more live entertainment. It's going to be the interaction, the people, things that we see, things that we can touch and watch that are live are going to matter. And so that money's going to pour in. And so the money pours in. It's just who gets it, Ted, right? Who, in the NCAA for years, just walled it off. Like almost with their fingers in their ears and their eyes closed with a blindfold. Like, no, we scholarship and scholars and education, which we all felt, right? We knew that was real. Like it's important. But yet, there was a truth that needed to be taken in, that there's money pouring in, and who's going to get a piece of it? And can a student athlete actually receive money? And because they walled it off so intently, forces broke them. And the forces were not nearly as thoughtful and, systematized. Like it was a free-for-all. Because the people who needed to govern, the people who needed to, to help it grow and figure out how to distribute this massive amount of money that's rolling in, didn't want to touch it. And because of that, it broke. And now, even President Trump yesterday said that he wants the schools to he wants to start to regulate it. And that's really the only chance, is if Congress acts to regulate it. Otherwise, people are going to sue, go back to the courts and say, look, we already told you. You can't stop this. And so a dear friend of mine that I grew up with, child, 17 years old, just agreed, he's still got another year of high school, just agreed to $5 million guaranteed to come to school.
Yeah. 17.
So think about the drama for families where that is the first generational wealth that they've ever seen anywhere in the family. And he's 17. So look, you can tell it's not a blame game. It's just too bad that the governing bodies, and that's why the governing bodies that we trust, whether it's the FDA or the FBI or name it, any governing body, they have to live high standards, or else once we lose that trust, things get really haywire. It really breaks, and that's a problem. So the NCAA is trying to regroup, and I hope they can.
Deion Sanders, who you played with, and I actually was around a little bit when he played for the San Francisco Giants. Deion came out last week and said there should be a salary cap for players. Colorado's losing money. They just laid off a bunch of people from their athletic department. Deion said there should be a salary cap for players, but didn't say anything about coaches. You just can't make this up.
And unfortunately, the mess cannot be cleaned up, because if you try to cap it, someone will sue and win.
Right, exactly.
And so it's like it's going to be a revolving mess. And Congress can take over the judiciary and come up with something that works. And they're trying. I think that's what people are trying to do. But, yeah. And look at the effect at Stanford. Yeah. I mean, this is an elite place, right? And it's devastating, right? Because we want the swimmers and the high jumpers to benefit like the football players, which is a really cool way to think about it, but a very irrational way to think about it. And so it's like it puts people in a real bind.
That could be another hour and a half. So instead, please fire away.
Well, no, I think that anything more than that would be just more, right? I mean, I think we hit the note.
All right. You all have this wonderful opportunity. Fire some questions at Steve, and go ahead, speak loudly way there.
Just
in the
yell
back.
it out. Yeah, just yell it
we'll
out.
Shout it out. Oh, we do have mics. Okay, great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
We're just a few people.
Okay.
Good morning.
This is my USFL crowd, the LA Express. I used to play in front of about 400 people. It was awesome.
I played D3 ball, so this is more than we ever saw too. So yeah. Quick question. You mentioned about playing the victimization. It was awkward between you and Joe. You said I could talk more about that. So would you talk more about that?
Well, yeah.
I like that question.
No, okay. It rings. It does, and I'll try to run through this as quickly as I can. So, I finally got that job that I told you that I wanted, and that job was a job that, and I think the victimization was not just when I was a backup. It actually happened when I started, because then it was, I remember feeling like I wanted to tell people on the street, like, hey, Joe did throw an incomplete pass. Like and I know you never would believe it, but he threw an interception, one or a couple. And I know this is shocking to you, but he did lose a game. And it felt that way, right? And because of that, I started to take it in as a young man, and that's where the victimization really started. Because I'm out here, I'm pouring myself into this, every ounce of myself, like literally just pouring myself into trying to get something done, to be decent at it, and to stop the noise. Just like, can I stop the noise somehow? And you can't stop it. And it just like, you can't get away from it. You know, I'd get in the car and turn on the radio, and then the music would stop, and like, hey, can you believe Steve Young? He sucks, you know? And like, I started listening to the classical station because, you know, they're not gonna talk about it. And then Mozart ends, he's like, hey, Steve Young sucks, you know? You're like, what? This is like in the line of the grocery store, you know, and the checkout guy's like, you know, how about the 49ers? Steve Young sucks, you know? And so the victimization took hold. And over the next couple of months of the season, I got more and more depressed. I got more and more full of it's like a dark cloud. And I was sure, when I told you about the hole that gets dug and I'm in the bottom of it, I was in the bottom of a pit. And it was mid-season, and I was miserable. And I decided to just, on a day off, after Monday's walkthrough for Tuesday day off, I flew to Salt Lake to see my brothers in med school. And I was just like, let me just get out of here, see if I can kind of calm down. And, or get somebody to tell me that it's not my fault, you know. Maybe my brother will tell me that it's not my fault. He didn't help. So I'm coming back the next night because we got to practice on Wednesday morning. And I get on the plane. I sit next to a guy named Steve Covey, who wrote books through the years called 7 Habits. And the older people will remember these. And I'd known of him. I never really met him, but I knew of him, and I sat down, and there we were. And he asked me, Steve, hey, Steve Covey, how you doing? I'm like, oh my gosh, I read your books. And he goes, so how's it going? And I spent 20 minutes telling him. I was at a point where I just didn't want to hold anything back, and he'd listen. And then at the end, he says, wow, Steve, that's a lot. And I really feel that. Can I ask you a couple questions? And I go, yeah. He goes, your owner, Eddie DeBartolo, tell me about him. And I go, oh my gosh, he's the first guy, the partners, and blah, blah. He goes, I'd heard that. I really want to meet him. He seems like a really amazing guy. And he says, what about your coach, Bill Walsh? Oh, well, you can imagine what I said. And he goes, he's a great guy. I want to meet him too. And Joe Montana, he's on the team, right? And if you needed to ask him questions like mentorship, could you ask him? And I'm like, well, yeah, I guess so. And so he goes, Steve, I got to be honest with you. I hear you, but I travel the world looking for platforms for human beings to iterate and see how good they can get. And the platforms that do the best job, I want to elevate and publicize so that we can see these principles of what would make someone be able to be the best they can be. And as I travel the world, I got to be honest with you, the platform that I see you on might be the greatest opportunity I've ever seen in my life. And I remember did you not hear what I just said? Do you not know that I'm in the bottom of a pit that someone threw me in? And it, like a lightning bolt, went through my heart. And I realized, oh, hell, I dug it. I jumped in. And this really is the greatest opportunity. And then he asked me the last question. He goes, Steve, this might scare you, but let me ask you, do you want to find out how good you are? Because it's scary. It's not easy, but do you truly want to find out? And I reflexively said, of course I do. And then he said the greatest words ever. He said, then be about it. And I got off the plane, and I was thinking to myself, oh no, I think I might have miserated myself, I know that's not a word, but to a place where I'm going to get fired. Like you get fired Wednesday morning in the NFL. And there's been talk about it, trust me. I mean, I'd heard it. And I sprinted down to work that day, and they didn't fire me, and I played, and from that day forward, my whole perspective changed to what I believed was the truth. Tremendous opportunity, scary, but never again victimization. Never. And I've been vigilant about that even as I've gotten married, had children, daily work. I will not, and try to watch for, like a hawk, victimization thoughts, actions, verbiage. And I just want to finish the story that was 1991, 1992 started, and in 1992 I was MVP of the NFL. And I'm only telling you that because remember that I was in the bottom of a pit. And what changed? I saw the truth. And it just gave me the opportunity to go chase it. And I could get out of my own way. And I'm really, thanks for the question, but that was the miracle.
And listen, it's a blessing every year that Steve comes and does this for the Campbell Trophy Summit. So that's special. It's 45 special minutes.